Welcome to the session. Good morning, dear students. This is M. Komala Devi, KGBV Gangavaram, Chittoor district. The last class we learned about relief divisions of India landmass. It is divided into 6 groups. Among all those 6 groups, we discussed about Himalayas and Indo-Gangetic Plate. And in this class, we are going to discuss about the remaining 4 divisions, which are nothing but Peninsula Plateau, coastal plains, deserts, and islands. Coming to the first one, Peninsular Plateau. What is meant by Peninsular Plateau? The body or piece of land enclosed on the 3 sides by water is nothing but Peninsular Plateau. So, India Plateau is also known as Peninsular Plateau. I repeat, it's a body or piece of land enclosed on 3 sides by water. That is called as Peninsular Plateau. Indian Plateau is also known as Peninsular Plateau. So coming to the location of Peninsular Plateau, the topology of plateau is slightly tilted towards east, and western and eastern Ghats form the western and eastern edges respectively. And the southernmost tip of the plateau is Kanyakumari. Here you can able to see. Then it is formed due to the breaking and drifting of the Gondwana land. Hence, it is a part of oldest landmass. It is a table land made up of old crystalline, igneous, and metamorphic rocks. The plateau has broad and shallow valleys and rounded hills. The peninsular plateau is flanked by the Aravallis on the northwest, the Western Ghats in the west, and dissected Eastern Ghats in the east. This is all about the peninsular plateau. Peninsular plateau ranges in an elevation from 100 meters in the northern side to the 1000 meters to the south. Many rift valleys such as Narmada, Tapati, Mahanadi, Godavari, and Damodar have been formed due to the faulting and vertical movements. The Peninsular Plateau is famous for block soils. The Peninsular Plateau is rich in valuable minerals such as manganese, iron, mica, coal, bauxite, gold, and copper. In comparison to the Gangetic Plains, the Peninsular Plateau region is dry. The rivers are not perennial. The irrigation for the second crop depends on deep tube wells and tanks because it is not perennial. Then, coming to the divisions of Peninsular Plateau, it is broadly divided into 2 categories. One is Central Highlands, the other one is the Deccan Plateau. Coming to the Central Highlands, again it is subdivided into 4 parts. The Malwa Plateau, the Bundelkhand, and Baghalkhand, and Chota Nagpur Plateau. And coming to the Deccan Plateau, again it is divided into 4 categories. The Deccan Trap, Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, and Northeast extension. Then coming to the Central Islands, the northern part of peninsula, the north of India is known as Central Islands. The northern part of peninsula, north of the Indias is known as Central Islands. In case of Central Islands, these are bounded by Aravalli Range on northwest and Ganga Plains on the north and Vindhya Range on south. The Central Islands are wider in west. Coming to the Malwa Plateau, the Malwa Plateau forms the western part of the Central Islands and comprises the entire area between the Aravalli Range in the northwest and the Vindhya Range in the south. Coming to the Bundelkhand Plateau, the Bundelkhand is located to the east of Malwa Plateau. Northern part of Bundelkhand is almost lying Uttar Pradesh. The area is about 70,000 square meter. Then Baghelkhand, coming to the Baghelkhand Plateau, It is located to the east of Bundelkhand Plateau. The Bundelkhand is the region of central India in northeastern Madhya Pradesh. It houses tribals, dense forest, and many wild animals. The Kanha National Park is located in this area. Then Chota Nagpur Plateau. The Chota Nagpur Plateau is in eastern India, which covers much of Jharkhand. The total area is approximately 65,000 square meters. Chota Nagpur Plateau consists of three steppes Pass region, Ranchi region, and Hazaribagh Plateau, and Manbagh and Simbagh region. Chota Nagpur Plateau is a store of houses of minerals like mica, bauxite, copper, limestone, iron ore, and coal. The important city in this plateau, Chota Nagpur plateau, is Jaria, Raneganj, Bokaro, Ramgarh, Karankura, Jamshedpur, Asansol, Darhapur, Bardhaman, and Ranchi. Then, coming to the Deccan Plateau. The southern part of the peninsula, the south of the Vindhyas, is known as Deccan Plateau. The Deccan Plateau is a large triangular plateau in India, covering up the majority of the southern part of the country. It rises 100 meters high in the north, rising further to more than a kilometer high. Coming to the boundaries of Deccan Plateau, Satpura range forms the Deccan Plateau's north edge. The Mahadev, the Kaimur range, and a portion of Michael range are the eastern edges. Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, and Nilgiri forms the western, eastern, and southern boundaries respectively. Then the Deccan Plateau is made up of basalt and granite rocks having a region of highlands with a typically vast stretches of flat areas on the top, like a table known as tabletop. It consisting of flat areas over the top, so it is called as tabletop. Then the climate of this region varies from semi-arid rain to the rain in the north to tropical in most regions with distinct and dry season. The rain falls during the monsoon season from about June to the October, and March to June can be very dry and it is very hot with temperatures. Then coming to the Deccan Trough, the northwestern part of the Deccan Plateau which is made up of lava flows. The term trough used in geology for such rock formation is derived from the Dutch word for straits, referring to the step-like hill forming a landscape of the region. Coming to the Western Ghats, the Western Ghats are the western edge of the Deccan Plateau and they lie parallel to the western coast. Its length is approximately 1600 kilometers and the average elevation is about 2000 meters. The Western Ghats near to the border of the Gujarat and Maharashtra and south of the river Tapati and runs through the states of Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, ending at the Kanyakumari at the southern tip. The Nilgiri Hills join the Western Ghats near Gudaluru and they rise to over a height of about 2000 meters. The famous hill station Udakamandalam, popularly known as Ooty, is located in Nilgiris. Dear students, here it is highlighted with red pen. These are very important topics for your examination point of view. I repeat, the famous hill station Udakamandalam, popularly known as Ooty, and it is located in Nilgiris. Dodabetta in the highest peak in Western Ghats. Western Ghats include the Annamalai and Palani in Tamil Nadu and Cardamom in Kerala Hills. Cardamom Hills which are located in Kerala. Anaimudi of Anaimalai Hills is the highest peak in the South India. Western Ghats are usually higher than Eastern Ghats. The points whichever is highlighted with red color is very important for your examination point of view. Students, you please try to remember all those points. Then coming to the Eastern Ghats, the Eastern Ghats are the eastern edge of Deccan Plateau. They lie parallel to the eastern coast. The Eastern Ghats run from the West Bengal state in the north through the Orissa and Andhra Pradesh to Tamil Nadu in the south. The average elevation of Eastern Ghats is 600 meters. The Eastern Ghats are discontinuous and irregular and dissected by rivers like Godavari, Mahanadi, Krishna, Kaveri, draining into the Bay of Bengal. The average height of the Eastern Ghat is around 600 meters and rarely exceeds 900 meters. The highest peak in the Eastern Ghats is Aroikonda, found at Chintapalli, which is at 1680 meters in Andhra Pradesh. I repeat, the highest peak in Eastern Ghats is Aroikonda, found at Chintapalli, which is located in Andhra Pradesh. And Nallamalas, Velikondas, and Palakondas, and Seshavachala are some of the hilly tracts of Eastern Ghats. These 2 points are also very important. I repeat, Nallamalas and Velikondas and Palakondas and Seshavachala are some of the hilly tracts of Eastern Ghats. One of the remarkable features of the Peninsular Plateau is black soil formed due to the volcanic activity. These 2 points are important in Eastern Ghats. You please try to remember. Then, coming to the coastal plains. The coastal plains are characterized by an area of flat, low-lying land that are situated adjacent to a water body, often a sea or ocean. It is also of note that coastal plains are separated from the interior of the large land mass by other unique features. The Great Peninsular Plateau is flanked by narrow coastal strips on both the western and the eastern sides along the Arabia Sea and the Bay of Bengal respectively. Here in the figures you can able to see this Arabia Sea and Bay of Bengal. These are also known as coastal plains. And coastal plains again broadly categorized into 2 types: Western coastal plains and Eastern coastal plains. Western coastal plains. It consists of a narrow strip of land in the western part of India between the Western Ghats and Arabia Sea. The western coastal starts from the Rann of Kutch and ends at the Kanyakumari. This is also very important point you need to remember. The western coast starts from the Rann of Kutch and ends at Kanyakumari. It is narrower than east coast. This plain is uneven and broken by the hilly terrain. And western coastal plains again divided into 3 parts. One is Konkan coast, Canara coast, and Malabar coast. Konkan coast is the northern part. It touches the Maharashtra and Goa. Coming to the second one, Canara coast. This is the middle part. It includes the coastal plains of Karnataka. Coming to the third one, Malabar coast. This is the southern part and mostly in the state of, you can see this coast in the state of Kerala. Coming to the western coastal plains. Western coastal plains are characterized by the numerous backwaters or lagoons. Lagoon is a body of shallow seawater or brackish water separated from the sea by some form of the barrier. They are separated by the sea and it looks like a barrier. The storm activity here is considerably less than on the eastern coastal plains. The storm activity here is considerably less when compared to the eastern coastal plains. The eastern coastal plains is a wide stretch of land lying between Eastern Ghats and the Bay of Bengal. Eastern coastal plains are also called as Bay of Bengal plains. These are wide and have large surface of structure. It stretches from Mahanadi in Odisha to Kaveri deltas in Tamil Nadu. These plains are formed by rivers Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, and are very fertile. These coastal plains are also known locally by different names. Utkal Coast in Odisha, Sarkar Coast in Andhra Pradesh, Coromandel Coast in Tamil Nadu. This point is also very important, dear students. I repeat, these coastal plains are also known as locally by different names. Utkal Coast in Odisha and Sarkar Coast in Andhra Pradesh and Coromandel Coast in Tamil Nadu. You please try to remember this point. Like the Indo-Gangetic plains, these deltas are too large, agriculturally developed. Coastal zone is also enables rich fishing resources. This is about eastern coastal plains. It stretches from Tamil Nadu in the south to the West Bengal in the north. The width of eastern coastal plains are between 100 to 130 kilometers. The eastern coastal plains are wider and leveled than the western plains, and the region is divided into, again the eastern coastal plains are again divided into two parts, northern Sarkar coast and the Coromandel coast. The northern Sarkar coast is, this region is in between Mahanadi river and Krishna river. It is called as northern Sarkar coast, and Coromandel coast is the region between the Krishna river and Kaveri river. Large rivers such as Mahanadi and Godavari, the Krishna and Kaveri have formed the extensive delta on this coast. Lake Chilka is an important feature along the eastern coast. It is the largest saltwater lake in India. So this is also a very important point you try to remember. The delta is a low triangular landform of alluvial deposits at the mouth of the river, where that river flows into an ocean or by a large body of water. Then coming to the Indian desert. The Indian desert. A desert is a landscape or region that receives an extremely low amount of precipitation and less than enough to support the growth of the most plants. Deserts are defined as the area with an average annual precipitation of less than 250 millimeters per year. Deserts are often composed of sand and rocky surfaces, as all of you might have known about this one. The sand dunes are called ergs and stony surfaces are called hamada surfaces, composes a minority of desert surfaces. Exposure of rocky terrain are typical and reflect the minimal soil development and sparseness of vegetation. The soil is rocky because of the low chemical weathering. The Great Indian Desert, which is also known as Thar Desert, it is a large arid region in the northwestern part of the India subcontinent. This is also very important. With an area of more than 2 lakh square meters, it is the world's 9th largest tropical desert. I repeat, Thar Desert is the world's 9th largest subtropical desert. The Thar Desert is situated partly in India and partly in Pakistan. In India, the Thar Desert extends from Satluj River in the north and northeast, surrounded by the Aravalli Range on the southeast, and the south by the salt marsh known as Rann of Kutch, and on the west by the Indus River plains. It is an undulating sandy plain covered with the sand dunes. The Barchans covers the large areas. It has arid climate with low vegetation cover. Streams appear during the rainy season and rivers don't have enough water to reach the sea. Then finally coming to the islands. And all of you might have known about this one. An island is a piece of subcontinent land and that is surrounded by water from all sides. And coming to the island groups of India, generally there are two groups of India has a vast mainland, and besides this, the country has also two groups of islands. One is Lakshadweep Islands, and the second one is Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Coming to the location of these islands, which you can able to see on this map. Here we can see the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and here we can able to see the Lakshadweep Islands. Then first one, Lakshadweep Islands. Lakshadweep Islands are smallest union. It is the smallest union territory of India, and it is a group of islands 200 to 300 kilometers of the coast of Kerala in the Arabian Sea. And it is located in 8 degrees and 12 degrees north latitude and 71 degrees and 74 degrees east latitude. There are a total 36 coral islands that constitute the Lakshadweep Islands, and only 10 are inhabited and only 6 have been opened for tourism. Their total land area is 32 kilometers square. These islands formed of coral deposits and are called atolls. Atolls are circular or horseshoe-shaped coral reefs. Karavati is the administrative headquarters of the Lakshadweep Islands. And this island group has great diversity of flora and fauna. Then coming to the geography of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, it is located between the latitude of 6 degrees to 14 degrees north and longitude of 92 degrees to 94 degrees east, and located in the Bay of Bengal. This group of 572 islands lies in the 193 kilometers away from the Cape Negrais in Myanmar, and 1255 kilometers from the Calcutta and 1119 kilometers from the Chennai. These islands attain the maximum altitude at the Saddle Peak, which is at 730 meters, formed mainly of limestone, sandstone, and clay. The name of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands brings to our mind an image of palm trees, white beaches, and green forests, and sound of waves breaking on a coral reef. And here we can able to see the facilities of trekking, diving, and snorkeling. These are all are available. So this is the best way to enjoy the trip here in islands. Then Andaman and Nicobar Islands are group of islands in the Bay of Bengal and a union territory of India. The territory is located geographically 150 kilometers north of Aceh in Indonesia and separated from the Thailand and Burma by the Andaman Sea. It comprises of two island groups. Those are nothing but Andaman Islands and Nicobar Islands, separated by the 10-degree north parallel with the Andamans to the north of this latitude and the Nicobars to the south. The Andaman Sea lies to the east and the Bay of Bengal to the west. This is all about the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And Andaman and Nicobar Islands is an elevated portion of submerged mountain parts running from Myanmar mountain Arkan Yoma in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Narkondam and Barren Islands are volcanic origin. And the southernmost tip of India is found in Nicobar Island, and it is called as Indira Point, which is submerged during the year 2004 tsunami. During the year 2004. Coming to the conclusion, as we know that it is very important that there is a vast diversity in the landforms in which the India people live. Some areas are irrigated by the mighty rivers flowing from the Himalayas, and some by the rain-fed rivers from the Western Ghats and its forests. Many places are located in the river valleys and others in the mountains. So, dear students, I think you might have understood about these Indian relief features, and we have gone through the each and every 6 groups of this one. And I hope you can understood very well. And in this unit, these are the important questions, and you need to write the answers for all these questions. First one is write about Purvanchal Hills and what is the dunes and give some examples. Then third one, write about Eastern Ghats and Western Ghats. The final question is describe the major relief divisions of Indian landmass. These questions, dear students, these questions are very, very important, and you please write the answer and later you can submit. Then coming to the chapter 2, ideas of development. So here I would like to give some introduction about this chapter, and the coming section we are going to discuss about the chapter 2, which is nothing but ideas of development. We have so many aspirations about what we would like to do and how we would like to live. And similarly, we have the ideas about what a country should be like and what are all the different essential things we require. Can life be better for all? And can there be more equality? And in order to understand all these questions and in order to achieve all these goals, we need to develop ourselves. So development involves thinking about all these questions and about the ways in which we can work towards achieving all these ways. So in order to achieve all these ways, how to think and how to involve and how to develop all those uh, think how to develop all those things and how to involve and how to implement all those plans. So in the next session, we are going to discuss about this chapter, which is nothing but ideas of development. Each person has its own ideas. Then, thank you all. And the next class, in the next section, we are going to discuss about the ideas of development. Thank you all.